You are a father of 6 children. So Father Chris is talking about the catechism, right? A devout Catholic, you're constantly teaching. So what happens when you try to teach the catechism to children? Are they responsive? Do they want to hear about what the Catholic Church has to say through its catechism about pornography, sex outside of marriage, about how... Is there a dismissiveness even amongst the Catholic families that you would be around? Because this seems to be an issue when you go to talk to people.
It depends on the age group. I mean, when the children are young, there's no dismissiveness, you know, they're open to it. Maybe when you go into secondary school level and that age group, it's more a sense of maybe they feel awkward about it because they know a lot of their friends aren't from that same background, etc. They don't view it that way. So there's an awkwardness there. But it's children, I think of any age, are always open to the truth. You can see that. They respond to it. They recognize truth. But they mightn't always want to show it among their peers. So it's just a willingness, maybe sometimes to look cool, but they certainly are open to it.
Okay. Father Allen, is the Catholic Church the only church that opposes pornography?
No, there are so many on both a religious angle and also in the secular world that are seeing more and more the effects of pornography and are speaking out about it. The Mormon Church, for instance, was one of the first, at least in the United States, that was bringing to the forefront this issue of pornography. Christian churches all around the world are bringing up this issue. But then beyond that, we see that there are secular entities. One of the most common that I've found in my work is a website called Fight the New Drug. And it's excellent. And again, its title is very telling. This is the new drug. And they have so many things. It's, again, secular in nature. It does not bring in a religious component, but the truth is there. And the scientific world also, for persons who do not subscribe, maybe they call themselves an agnostic or even an atheist, this secular world has science to be able to back this up. At Integrity Restored, we look at both the faith aspects, the moral theology of the church, but then also the psychological, the neurobiological realities. And Keelty brought up a great point of those things like mapping that are being shown through science and all of the characteristics that are being shown about what addiction really is and the processes and things that are leading up to addiction. And that's, I think, also very important, that there are stages to this. And the world is showing us from multiple different aspects, a religious and a secular, that there are multiple ways and that there's a pathway that only leads to deep-seated problems if this issue of pornography is coming into the lives of anyone, but especially when it's started at a young age in a facet where children can't fully process and understand what is going on in these images, in these videos.
Father Chris, the Catholic Church is still seen to be prudish around sexuality matters. Is that true?
No, in a word, it's not. I think really it's a defensive stratagem. We accuse the Church of being prudish because we don't want to hear, we don't want to live what she has to say. There's nothing prudish about offering people guidelines that will help them. I don't want even to say guidelines, it's a little more than that. Offering people guidance that will lead them to lead a life that flourishes. I mean, look around, look at the consequences of a sexual free-for-all. They're not encouraging. And that's not being curmudgeonly or looking down on a fallen world. We're all fallen in some measure or other. But no, the Church emphatically the Church values sex and sexuality more than the secular world. So there's a certain inverse prudishness around today when people don't toe the line. I mean, the gasps of horror if you don't toe the line now exceed in intensity anything that might have been heard when I was a kid for the other reason. So no, emphatically the Church is not prudish. The Church loves all of God's creation, including the gift of sex and sexuality, wants it to be proclaimed and lived and cherished and taken delight in, but in its proper understanding, its proper meaning. And I know that we'll revisit that whole point in later conversations.
Mm-hmm. There's the constant debate about, listen, it's time for the Catholic Church to move forward in its thinking, that pornography is here to stay, that it is part of the everyday life of people. Is there any merit in that?
As much merit as there would be in saying cocaine is here to stay, car crashes are here to stay, periodic disasters are here to stay, and yet even more demerit, because we can actually address this. Pornography is, we don't say that about any other troubling area of behaviour, any other evil. That sort of fatalism, there's an agenda behind that, and one could speculate ad nauseum regarding the nature of the agenda. But no, we have something to offer to children, to young people, rather than, sorry, little people, this is here to stay, we can't help you. That's not what we're about as church.
When this series goes out, we have two priests sitting together on one side of the table. You know, they don't have family life. What do they know about pornography? But I've been working with the two of you over, well, Father Alan since the last few months, and you, Father Chris, the last couple of years. And I can say that from working with you, that you know more about pornography than anybody else I've ever spoken to. So for anybody who may have that thought in their heads, I mean, two celibate men devoted to God, giving their lives to God, the work that you have put into it has been absolutely phenomenal. And it's only been through working with you, Father, since 2021 on your book about a vision that it led me into pornography. And then Kilty, you joined us for several of this series. And when we got to the end of it, it was, okay, we need to do more about this, because we were only scratching the surface with it. But I would say that for anybody, you know, who is questioning what we're doing here and questioning, you know, our priest that has flown from Pennsylvania, Father Allen, you're probably one of the most experts in the whole workings of pornography, because you've been at school level, primary school level, secondary school level, college level in dealing with pornography. And you know the influence that it has on society. So let me ask you to share some of that, please.
I think one of the big things as we're talking about all of this, and you were speaking to Father about the teachings of the church, it is important for us as we go through this, and I think that our presentations are going to be as such, that oftentimes the church gets labeled as a church that just talks about is against the bad. Don't do this. But we also have a message of hope that that is about the good. And we make that differential. We need to speak against the bad, but we also need to speak about the good. And we have both to share. Because as priests, one of the beautiful areas that we're in is we get to be part of not only one family, but so many. Not in connection with just one individual, but with so many. Whether it's in sacramental confession, pastoral counseling, in the ministries that we have. And I can tell you that from my own perspective, and I'm sure Father Chris, along with many other priests, would agree with me, is that we are being inundated in so many different ways, whether it is in the confessional as just confessing sin, whether it's in the turn away from church and the practice of the faith, because the church of porn is much more attractive to them, and that's where they're spending their time. The dissolution of marriages and the harm that it has. Children turning inwardly instead of finding healthy relationships with one another because of the trauma caused by pornography. And the list goes on and on. One of the things that we look at Integrity Restored is the amount of money that is lost by businesses because of persons viewing pornography while on the clock in the workplace. So many different aspects.